this is a special first look at some of the behind-the-scenes minis that will be part of the Cohors Cthulhu Tactics wargame that's coming to Kickstarter very soon. I'm Steve. I know very little about Cohors Cthulhu Tactics or anything to do with the Roman Empire, so I'm hoping to be elucidated, my word of the day, by my fine guests, two of the brains behind Cohors Cthulhu Tactics. I'm joined by Chris and Jamie. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell people who you are, what you do, what your investiture in Cohors Cthulhu Tactics is.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay. You said Chris first. That's a great start.
I mean, yeah, no, you guys can fight it out over who goes first. I don't mind.
That's fine. I'm Jamie. I'm the project manager for Cohors Cthulhu RPG and Tactics, and excited to show everyone some of the models we are going to have in the Kickstarter today.
Cool. Chris?
And I'm Chris. I'm one of the co-founders of Modiphius and the creator of the Cohors Cthulhu universe. And I've been working on the tactics rule set for the last year with the help of an amazing team around us. So it's great to show off some stuff finally. Yeah,
it's always worth pointing out. Obviously, we're here. I'm here just because I can push the buttons. There are and Chris and Jamie are here, but there are far more people who've worked on this game. So it's always a case of just we'll just pick these two lucky souls to come and talk to you. Great spice, some amazing minis behind Chris too. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's fine. So it's nice to see you all in chat. Hello. So, is there, and before we get cracking and show some fancy minis off, do you guys want to do any kind of like summary of what Cohors Cthulhu Tactics is and all that stuff?
Let me have a crack at that.
Do that,
Go for Chris.
So, well, obviously it's set in the Roman Empire, and the idea is first of all, it's a solo co-op adventure war game. So if you're used to things like, the other games like 5 Parsecs from Home, 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, Rangers of Shadow Deep, it's this idea that you can have a solo and co-op gaming experience where it's not necessarily about defeating the enemy, the enemy figures or the monsters in combat. There's often a storytelling exercise to play as part of the game. And we set it in the Roman era because who doesn't think about Rome on a daily basis, apparently?
Apparently.
And I grew up with all their old classic Ray Harryhausen films, and of course, with a lifetime of things like the Centurion and the Rome series and all of that. There's so much great inspiration for Roman era adventures. And I thought, wouldn't it be awesome to have to kind of take our Acton Cthulhu storyline and go back in time to the age of Rome and see what might have happened if the Roman soldiers and other Germanic and tribes had to face and contend with the creatures of the mythos.
Yeah, because that's a good point. It's not solely Roman legion people.
No, it's right. I mean, the obvious thing is you're a centurion with a bunch of soldiers, but nothing stops you being a Germanic chieftain and a bunch of heroic warriors. It's all sorts of different angles. And as the game develops,
you don't just have to be the. You don't have just have to. You can be on either side of that tree line from the start of Gladiator, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the point: is that they're unlikely allies. I mean, actually, very unlikely allies. They hated each other's guts, and but there's nothing worse than having to contend with the outer gods. So it's always interesting when you see allies from across the lines having to find some common ground despite all the their beliefs and hatreds.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously we're not going to talk, I don't think, too much in detail about the exact nature of the Kickstarter and how the game plays and all that stuff. You'll see that as we go through the Kickstarter campaign itself. But this is just, we've got some shiny minis, and we do love showing off shiny minis.
So download the prologue now.
Yes, of course. That's very good. But where can people download that prologue from, Jamie?
the Modifius website because I don't know the URL off the top of my head, Steve.
You don't know the Modifius website URL? I'm gonna find that right now. It is. Where can I find it? Do.
Very well planned out.
Yeah, we thought this one out, didn't we? Anyone can sort this one out. I'll be very. Cohors Cthulhu Tactics. Here we go. Look. I've got it right. Here you go. Boom. There you go. Only took seconds to work that one out. Yeah, the prologue is available to download now. So obviously, give it a bash with whatever historical minis you've got laying around. But if you wanted some much better ones, or just more different, everyone's ones are good, but ours are really good. So yeah, let's take a look at them. We're going to go through a bunch of them in order. If you've ever seen one of our Fallout streams, you know what this is kind of like. But if you have any questions, shout them out, or wait to the end, like a good person. But let's start straight off. So first up, the first set is RPG Heroes set number 1. Obviously, that kind of gives away there's more than one RPG Heroes set. And I believe it is safe to say there's going to be 5 of them, isn't there?
5 to start off with on day 1 of the Kickstarter, and we'll see where we go.
Kickstarters are like that, aren't they? But 5 is what we're planning. So 3 in each, and each one gives you 3 of the heroes that you would know from, if you backed the roleplay game Kickstarter a little while ago, you may be familiar with some of these characters. Who have we got in set number 1, Chris?
Are you showing us a picture on screen?
I am, yes. Sorry, yes. Yes, we're now looking at RPG Heroes set number 1. Should we start with Marius?
So Marius is your archetypal centurion from the Roman Legion. If you know the RPG Kickstarter, he's embroiled in a lot of the storyline as we build up to the Cohors Cthulhu events. He's first kind of comes across the Mythos in some ruins in Syria with his trusted sidekick and what we call a Vexillarius, kind of standard bearer for the Centurion unit, Lucius. So they encounter a 4-eyed beast in the ruins and manage to defeat it. And actually, they end up meeting Marcus Aurelius, and Lucius offers the beast's head to Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, and the emperor said, "Well, I don't know, if I killed this, I'd want to wear it, wouldn't you?" And they're like, "Did he just tell us to keep it?" So anyway, so their legion gets sent to Germania, where the events are kind of building to a head, and they're going to be kind of part of the pivotal kind of war game story as we see events unfold. Nice one.
So yeah, we're currently looking at the painted version of Marius. We have painted photography of some of these painted. Some of them not quite yet, but rest assured, we wanted to show you some painted one just to prove that they are real. Renders are one thing, but here's some evidence. That's always a good thing. So there's Marius. Joining Marius is, my pronunciation is going to go really badly, I can tell already today. Is this Maeren?
Maeren. So Maeren, you can see here, she's kind of summoning some power. I guess she's a bit like our Gandalf type character. So she's an ancient Hyperborean priestess, and she founded or helped found Atlantis. And so she's got quite incredible powers, and knows the real threat of the outer gods, and is trying to kind of bring together this group of heroes to take the fight back to them. And so she's going to be equipping them with abilities and kind of cool gear over time. So she's, if you want to bring on a very powerful but vulnerable, you've got to protect her like most wizards. Character, so she's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And people like this water mage. No, that's lightning. It's lightning. You can't quite see it from this angle, but no, she's like up from the ground. Finally, an RPG Heroes set 1 is Vita.
So Vita is an archer. Now we've actually we'll come to the archers later, but she's actually a Sarmatian archer and not. If you accidentally type it, autocorrect is going to insist on making it Samaritan archer, which is not. So the Sarmatians were awesome. They make Legolas look like the kid who wasn't very good at archery at school. They were the sort of kind of people that could ride backwards on a horse. Someone would throw an orange in the air and they'd hit it with 3 arrows with their eyes closed. It's completely nuts. They were amazing archers, and they were classically, they would what we'd call an auxiliary unit for the Romans. So they weren't technically Romans. They were one of the peoples who they'd conquered in the past or kind of subsumed. Yeah. And so she's this kind of she's a survivor of one of the attacks and teams up with Marius and the rest. And
so can't help but notice that she has notched 3 arrows there.
Yeah, funnily enough, yeah, she's that good.
Yeah,
and this is the crazy. They really were that good. This isn't like a bit of fantasy, right? Oh yeah, we're going to make a girl who looks really good with a bow. They actually were really awesome, and they'd often ride on horseback. And they were. I think the Romans often called them Amazons, and there's burials of several of them around Hadrian's Wall. So they did get around, and they're probably from they're kind of from the Iran area, and then all the way through into Ukraine, or what would have been Ukraine.
Cool. So as we come to the end, that's like your first kind of like that's your first kind of RPG hero set. As we come to now the second one, we're now looking at RPG hero set 2, the renders of those of these particular people. Is it worth saying just like how these fit into the game? Are they presumably they're not your rank and file?
No, that's right. So I mean, the point is you do create a hero initially as like you on the table that's going to be the focal point a lot, the storytelling, and we have a thing called the hero's journey that you're going to be able to unlock extra skills and abilities for the heroes, but for your particular hero character, you're going to have this whole bunch of choices you can make based on story points that you gather through the game, and they unlock your background, your history, your future, and give you extra cool abilities, but with a cost, with a threat.
Right.
So there's lots of reasons you can pick these different characters, because you might want someone who's a bit more like a druid, someone who's a bit more like a thinker, someone who's more like an engineer, or just a hardcore monster hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really gives you the freedom to play around with what you want to spec into, almost like Skyrim. You can do anything you want. Build your hero that way.
Yeah.
Cool. So what we're going to look at here is let's look at the first of these particular heroes. This is probably one of my favourite ones of the heroes, Aldegar, with those 2 big old axes and his I think I quite like it because it's so far from what you expect when you start thinking about Roman things. You don't tend to think of this guy coming out of the, like literally say, coming out of the forest with his axes to cause Russell Crowe some problems. But yeah, let's hear about Aldegar.
He's like the opposite of Marius. So he is the hardcore Germanic chieftain who's sick of the depredations of the Romans and is trying to get his people to rise up. But of course, they suffer among just as anyone, and their tribe is attacked by the forces of Herjan's horde, which we'll talk about later on, like kind of one of the big villains, and they're forced to go on the run at the same time as Marius's fort is attacked, and they'll come face to face with the Romans and have to kind of find some common ground to fight together. So he's a great miniature if you want your hero to be the big powerful barbarian chieftain. And he's this particular character, he's got some in the storyline, he's got some birthmarks that look like a wolf and a crow. And the cool thing is in the storyline there's going to be a point where they burst to life and give him these kind of spirit warriors to support him without telling too much.
Oh yeah, definitely. Don't let all the magical friends out of the bag. Next in this set, someone's already noted it. Lucius, with what I only noticed as I was putting these slides together. an extra-eyed lion on his head.
Yeah. Well, that's that character, that creature I mentioned.
Yeah.
Marius and him defeated, and so he was technically gifted it by Marcus Aurelius, but it was a hint of what's to come. They actually met Maeren in one of her guises in Rome at the same time, just after that meeting, and she said, "Oh well, if you come across anything else strange when you're in Germany, let me know." And actually, no, sorry, it wasn't Maeren. It was another character who we won't too much. But Maren's also kind of in that circle of characters. So
as Great GM in the chat has just pointed out, is that Leo Cordopticus is the correct Latin name for that. But yes, so that there's Lucius, who we've heard a little bit about more. Next is Sabine.
So Sabine is Suibhne. It's actually a male Hibernian name, so Irish from the time, and it just felt right for her. And she's a young druid who has all the visions of that something terrible's building up, and all the old druids are like, you young people are not supposed to have visions. We're supposed to be old and haggard and have spent all our lives waiting for visions. So they're a bit annoyed that she's having all these visions, and they send her off to Britannia to these these kind of corrupt druids. And anyway, she ends up finding her way to Germania and finds her visions leader to Aldegar, and then she helps him escape and come face to face with Marius and the surviving Roman soldiers. And so she's instrumental in kind of bringing them together. Now the cool thing about Suibhne is she fights with this kind of capoeira style that she's kind of dancing as she fights, and she doesn't look at you when she talks to you or when she's killing you. So
great. It's the real personal touch.
Yeah, she's got this incredible sort of knife fighting technique. And of course she's a nice character if you want a bit of melee, but you're going to have some magic skills as well. So
no, that sounds good. That sounds I think this is so far as my set. Double axes and a bit of stealthy dagger stabbing. RPG RPG Heroes set 3. Now, these ones we just have the renders for, so there will be no sneaky peeks further than this. But in this set, I believe he says, checking his notes, we have Ekkehard, Penrod, and Valda.
So Ekkehard he's a German hunter. Who lives around this town of Lorien, which is our kind of archetypal frontier town. If you're a D&D player, think about Keep on the Borderlands. It's this a kind of classic, way too far out on the frontier, a little bit too far from help. And Ekkehard's again one of the Germanic crew so if you want a kind of cool German hunter, he's your man for as a character story. I mean, again, great for role playing characters. He's got some grudges against the Romans. They're all on different sides of the politics and have all got to find their way to kind of work together. And he's got this kind of cool little trained eagle that kind of scouts for him.
You're no hunter or ranger unless you have an animal friend. That's how these things work.
And he's also got, you'll see this, he's got a little ball, which is this sort of Atlantean artifact that he's found on a hunting trip. He came face to face with a Teufelshunde and had to run.
Right.
And it's a kind of very powerful sort of sling stone that can return to the user under its own power. So it's pretty cool. And so some of the characters will get these ancient artifacts in the war game as well that will help you in your fight against Mythos.
So how about next, I believe on the list was Penrod.
So Penrod's your archetypal blacksmith. He's the big burly dude that you really want as a friend, especially in a violent place like the town of Lorien. So if you want someone who's good with metal, or someone who's good, who's got a lot of strength, and he's going to go on to get some extra powers in the storyline. But he's kind of like one of the linchpins of our sort of Germanic rebels in the town.
Cool. That's a pretty fancy hammer he's got. Is that sort of slightly magical in some way, or
it might be one day?
It might be.
Yeah.
Find out if you follow the
future
RPG.
quests.
We have, I suppose. So you've got we have what we call unleashed. So there's going to be unleashed versions of the characters where Maeren has met them and she's given them either an artifact or some what we call Hyperborean augmentations, which are kind of literally discs of nanotech that get pushed into your weapon or your body, and it gives you a big powerful boost.
The sort of thing where, like, advanced technology is basically indistinguishable from magic in a kind of way. Yeah. Nice.
Certainly for them, and even for us.
Definitely.
A bit bizarre how it works. So yeah.
Last in this set is Valda.
Valda is your mysterious Germanic priestess who lives in a cave in the woods, as they all do. And she's she's your she'll be your miniature if you want a mystical, magical character to lead the forces. I mean, again, remember, this doesn't have to be the only character. It might be that you've got your centurion. You go, oh, actually, I quite like a Valda as an ally because she's going to be able to cast some powerful magic. In the story,
depending on which sort of foot troops you put these people with, they're going to have different benefits and bonuses. It's about
it is a bit of a ragtag. Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing is a bit ragtag troop. So it's not like you can only have Germans if you're Germanic. You can only have Romans. It's kind of like this will be the enemy of my enemy.
You've got to use what you've got, kind of thing.
Alliances,
definitely. Before we go on to the next RPG hero set, is it worth talking about some of the? I'm right in saying like that there's a slight crossover in some of the stuff from the RPG ones as well.
So all the heroes we've shown so far, set 1, 2, and 3, will be models people that back the RPG Kickstarter and purchase the physical minis will have got. Along with some of the stretch goals that were STL only, we're now bringing to physical as day one releases rather than locking them behind stretch goals. So we're excited to show people when they can finally get their hands on them.
So that's cool. And that's your glimpse behind the curtain there. If you were looking at the RPG things and being like, but why the minis? It's like, well, it's almost like we had a plan all along. So let's go on further now and to RPG Heroes Set 4. The 3 heroes in this set are Amalthea, Buccio, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and Publius.
Yeah, so Amalthea is an apothecary. So she is someone who's skilled in healing. So it's a bit like having the priest along with your group, but she's she's from Northern Africa. She's got in our storyline, she's got this sort of 2-headed snake that's got a bit of a spiritual aspect to it. She's got some cool, unusual powers. So again, like, you want to pick someone. Might be a secondary character that you want in your units that can bring in some healing or some extra unusual powers alongside the fighters.
And then is it? Oh, I forgot. Buccio, yes.
Buccio.
Yeah, Buccio. He's your Roman engineer. So, I mean, he looks like a Roman soldier. He's got a big spade. And,
I was just going to say, anyone who's going into battle armed with a spade, I feel like they're clearly not to be messed with.
Yeah. He's again in the game. You can literally be an engineer, and then there's another level above, and there's a very good reason for it. It's because you're going to be discovering ancient ruins on the battlefield, and sometimes you're going to want to destroy them, because if you don't, the power, the sort of magic is building up, and bad things happen when it gets too high. There'll also be sort of otherworldly structures that you may or may not want to keep around on the battlefield. So having an engineer is definitely going to be helpful.
Cool. And last in this set is our chap in the middle, a slightly ragged fellow by the name of Publius.
Oh, he's a proper scoundrel. He's this Thracian thief. I mean, he's had a pretty horrible life, and he's actually a nice guy, and he's just but he's had to steal from people. I mean, you go back to Roman times, and it was, if you didn't have money, it was pretty rough, especially frontier place by like this. So he's one of the more shadier characters, and he's made friends with Penrod the blacksmith, and there's a little character called Queso, who's a little street kid, a street urchin, who he kind of has taken under his wing to help protect them, and kind of who runs around nicking stuff for him. But they're a likable pair. But Publius will be the character you want if you need like that thief. Somebody might be better at sneaking into some ruins to get behind the enemy, and a bit more sleight of hand. So I mean, again, great for the role-playing game, but also quite has a useful place on a tabletop where there are ruins to sneak into without the monsters knowing.
Exactly. So I think now let's go. This is the last set, RPG Heroes set 5. Last RPG Hero set, I should say. After this, we're going to look at some other things, maybe some more gribbly, slimy things as well. But in RPG Heroes set 5 is Atreba, Ubovvi, or pronunciation is clearly wrong there, but never mind.
You're getting it.
And Geta.
Yeah, so Atreba, she's actually from the Chatty tribes, kind of northwest of our little town of Lorium, and she was basically taken in, or her tribe were pretty much captured by Herjan and his horde, who's this sort of really horrific, violent tribe who've been supported by the cult of Mormo and the outer gods, and so she managed to escape. So she knows firsthand how evil and horrific they are. Again, she's a great woman warrior. If you just want a great female warrior to lead your troops, like a Germanic warrior, she's a great option for that. She's both a hunter. She's got a spear that's got some quite dark magic around it, so it has a bit of a risk to taking her, but could be very useful on the battlefield.
Nice. Ubovvi?
So Ubovvi is he's a Germanic Ulfsark. He's sworn his life to protect Valda, our high priestess. So again, it's if you like the storyline and you like the stories that you're going to be reading, or you've read in the novel that is coming out, you might quite like to pair them up, because she's the priestess, and then he's basically her berserker bodyguard, and he's got this sort of hide over him, and everyone thinks he's a bit unhinged. So but he's just basically like literally point him, kill. So when you come up against some of the harder creatures, he's going to be great.
I mean, say unhinged. It takes a special personality to wear another thing's head on your own head. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, also something I should say is, nothing in the rules say that you have to make him how I've just described. You could just have this vision of like, I just want this really tough ass Germanic fighter. Well, he looks great. Or you can take inspiration from our story and use the character creation rules to make him exactly like the character in the story.
I think that's the thing. That stuff is there for you to use if it resonates with you. And last of set 5 for the heroes is Geta.
So Geta's from Syria. He is a Roman legionary, so quite classic. He's actually in the Minerva Legion. He's I mean, in our story, he's actually come looking for I think it's his member of his family that's gone missing in this area. But he's friends with Buccio. Again, he's one of the friendlier legionaries that gets brought into this secret war, what we call the hidden war. That's
he's
going
more of a people
on.
person.
He is, yeah. And so again, just great, a fun-looking legionary. But there's also a character to him. So again, if you might want to go, well, actually, I don't really want a centurion. I just want to start as the lowly legionary who kind of gradually goes up the ladder. So he might be quite a fun character to start with.
It's a nice thing as well that you just touched on there as well. I think you'll be able to see if you like scrutinize these minis and some of the ones coming up. They are very, they're very sort of like heroically sort of quite, they look a bit, I think, someone goes, oh, a historical mini of like a Roman legionnaire in armor. You're like, okay, I know what that looks like. But these are like the kind of the modern movie version of that. They're like kind of a bit crazy, a bit over the top. They look like they've just come out the pages of a graphic novel or something.
Yeah, like heroic, exaggerated look.
Yeah,
definitely. So those are the RPG heroes, and these guys and girls are obviously going to need some, shall we say, expendables to send into battle or to go into battle with. So that brings us the first set of such expendables. These are the heroic Roman legionaries, and there are 10 in this set. So who wants to talk about these? Yeah,
well,
Chris.
I mean, you can. Lots of people make great Roman soldiers, right?
Yeah.
So there's people like Warlord and Victrix. You can get big boxes of plastic sprues of Romans, but because this is an adventurous game, and plenty of people will have enough Romans. You don't need any more. But what we wanted to do is give people. I kind of said, let's imagine you've got a D&D party made up of Roman soldiers, and it's their last stand, right? So that you've got one guy holding two swords, someone holding a pilum as a spear. They're all in this sort of desperate kind of action poses, and not your classic historical poses. And Jamie, we really wanted to mix it up a bit and add in female legionaries as well, which is not historically correct, but neither are Migos and
we felt this was more sort of as like Chris said before, it's more like ragtag groups coming together and need to do what's done, and it's not entirely historically accurate Cthulhu, so we felt it was a good opportunity to expand and show some really cool sculpts, as David said here. There's some exaggerated looks on some of these. Great draw lines.
I think that's part of it though as well. So like if you're going to put these guys on a table next to Amigo, you don't want them looking all stern. You want them being like just like kind of they've got to look like they are in that, and that this
absolutely. I mean, we wanted it to be so again you got your troop of 10, but we wanted it to be mixed. So again, if you fancied a group of female soldiers, women were in the Roman army, and certainly as like I said, as the auxiliaries, but because we are kind of set in a mostly historical world, but we've brought in a load of monsters, so this gives you the option to have that variety in your force.
So now we're looking at one of those legionaries painted up. So this is just an example of like what these minis look like. If you like the look of this brave legionary, maybe stay tuned to the Kickstarter and you might see him possibly make it to the end, or possibly not make it to the end of an entire playthrough that me and Chris go through. Spoilers, some of them don't make it, but but that's going to be kind of as part of the Kickstarter as well, so you get to see how the game plays. Next up, to go with the legionaries, the heroic Roman archers, and there are 5 in this set. And you mentioned earlier, Chris, they are actually they're Sarmatians.
Sarmatian archers, I mean, again, lots of people make your great classic Roman auxiliary archers. We wanted to go with the Sarmatian look only so that you could have Vita and her unit of girls, the sort of female archers, and continue that look and feel. So we use them in the playthrough as Roman archers, but the actual Sarmatians are a much better unit stats. So it's definitely going to be fun to kind of upgrade and get them.
And here is a close up on one of those painted archers. Next up, we're gonna get to the next set along, which is a little bit different. Someone asked in chat earlier, Are those pillars part of it? So those pillars are, yes, they are part of it. Here are some Roman ruins. These are the straight Roman pillars with the the plinth and the arch. You can see them here, painted up and given a bit of a fancy thing. Are we doing these as what's the nature of these? These physical STL?
Both. Yep. So if you're a backer, there's the STL version, or the the physical sets. Obviously there's a reason for it. There are lots of ruins, but we want our own little concise small pieces of ruins. There's the idea that the Romans have been in this area for quite a while. They've had waves of destruction and waves of building, and you've stumbled across something that's a remnant of maybe a little villa or a temple. But there's sinister things going on in the ruins. You might be able to find some old treasures there, but there is definitely some magic building up around the ruins. And these are some of the ruins you'll need probably to destroy, which maybe why it's good to bring along someone like Buccio, or build a character that's got some engineering skill. But you're going to want to scatter some of these ruins around the table as kind of key features.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And as Chris touched on, we're going to
sorry, Jamie, go for it.
I'm just going to talk over you, Steve. I'm going to talk for once.
Yeah,
as asked in chat. Bye, Steve. They're going to be STLs of all the things in the Kickstarter. We can confirm that. And like Chris said, with the Roman legionaries and things, everyone's kind of got models themselves, but we want to do our own because they look cool. And if you want to buy everything through us, even better.
Yep.
Everything you need from us.
So whoever it was asked in chat earlier, these physical STLs, and I was like, they are physical.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm talking about, clearly. Ask Jamie, not me. These are not the only scenery pieces that are going to be there. We've also got Hyperborean Scatter. Now, these are sort of slightly fancier, more peculiar scenery. And so you can see... Oh, look at this. This image has gone a bit weird. I don't know why. You can see the Roman ruined temples in the background. Don't know why that happens. Sorry about that.
That's spoilers.
But there we go. Yes, you can see these are sort of the more curved, more ancient and weird looking scenery.
So this goes back to Maeren's time. Very briefly, the Hyperborean civilization was a galactic civilization, and there were outposts on Earth, Maeren uses some of them to access ancient technologies and special powers, but a lot of them are broken and in pieces. And so these ruins represent perhaps an original gateway entrance to one of the facilities, because the facilities they have are all just slightly out of time and space. But of course, they're surrounded by eldritch and strange ancient energies. So there's a risk in getting close to them and using them. They might be something that helps the enemy. They might help you. So again, it's going to be a great addition. These aren't something that you have to have in your game. It's one of the kind of optional sections, or a scenario might use the Hyperborean ruins. Of course, you can use any ones you've got, but we've got some nice, cool little ones to add to the table.
That's cool. That's really cool. There's a question come up in chat from I can't see, so it's gone now. But are the STLs the add-on to the minis, or are they available separately? Can you choose?
So you'll be able to buy the model sets themselves, but then we will be doing a pledge of just all the STLs together, just to simplify it for STL people, rather than this physical set and an STL set for every single thing we're going to offer. We'll get a bit crazy. Cool. So one big STL pledge, and then you can buy all the sets individually as physical models.
Nice.
And I saw there's a question about shipping. Do make sure that you check the shipping from the USA web store, because it will be expensive if you're shipping from the UK. We have hopefully got some better pricing coming in, but definitely check USA shipping prices. With the Kickstarters, we all ship locally in the US and in Canada, so it should help.
Cool.
And quickly responding to Mr. Loncarster, who's just been commenting, the minis you get from the Kickstarter RPG are the hero sets 1, 2, 3, 4, and some of the Legionaries from that. So they're all usable. Yes, they're named characters, but we would intend for you to be able to use them as your own named characters as well. It's just fun theming for you to use them. It gives you different ideas of what you want to try, whether it be a Legionary, or a Ranger, a Mage, or something.
Yeah.
Cool. So just had a little sneak peek, so I clicked too early. But on to our first set of monsters and antagonists. These are a set of 3 Teufelshunde. I failed German.
Don't worry, that's how I call it as well. Don't worry.
Yeah, these are
I don't know.
Dimensional creatures that tend to appear out of angles and flat surfaces. So they often will use ruins as places to appear. I want you to imagine something that's kind of, it looks wrong to look at. It's all made up of strange angles, and it's dripping a sort of purple pus that sizzles when it hits the ground. And when they claw you, it actually drains your life, your well, it increases your fear actually in the game.
Yes.
So it's gonna
yes, it does.
As Steve found out.
As I may have found out.
Yeah.
But and here is a beautifully painted one. Can we give a shout out to who did the painting on these models, by the way?
Let me find it.
We may come back to that, but
we'll come back to
some
that.
Some of them are so
great painters on it.
Yeah,
we had a variety of really good painters picked up to jump on and help with this.
That's cool.
Really good.
But yeah, these are. It's safe to say the game me and Chris played, I underestimated these guys quite badly. But
because they move very fast as well.
They move very fast.
Yeah, the Teufelhounds in the get very quickly. Rules aside, you get a couple of actions. They're going to move 4 inches. Most everything moves 4 inches typically, but if they can reach you, they can move 6 inches.
Yeah,
so
and get that extra
catches you out a lot.
Yeah, it did. Thanks for the sub, Tusk. So that's the Teufelshunde. The next gribbly monster we have are some good old-fashioned ghouls, the undead.
And these are actually different ghouls. They're not the normal Cthulhu ghouls, kind of zombies with a bit of intelligence. These. We jokingly call them mushroom men, but they've got, imagine zombies that have got terrifying, horrific wounds in their bodies, but all these giant mushrooms are growing out of them, and they're pretty weak. But if they get into combat with you, it's very risky because they can infect your troops. So they're pretty nasty, and they look fun.
We've got a close up here of one of them who's very mushroomy. I don't like it, if I'm being honest. Mushrooms are not like fungus. I don't like it. I can't play The Last of Us for that reason. But this guy, I don't feel too bad about it because he kind of in my head is like an undead mushroomy version of Gareth from The Office, because he's got that very kind of like Gareth-y haircut. So these are pretty disgusting, and I'm glad they can be burned with fire. Next up, we're moving to another set of horrible monsters, and if you're familiar, with the world of Cthulhu and all the stuff we've done previously, you will have seen variations on these before. These are the Servitors. These are Servitor Legionaries of Mormo. There's my tentacles. Yes, these lovely, unfortunate people have suffered the fate of having a giant tentacle erupt from their neck, I guess, and just like
I mean, basically,
become a servitor. What's the job options there?
No,
for a bad day.
In Cthulhu, it's the Black Sun use magic and to summon the servitors out of dead bodies. They often find dead bodies on the battlefield. In Cohors Cthulhu, the priests of Mormo are using these very delicate little crystal balls filled with a kind of purple powder that is an ancient Atlantean recipe. And when it's thrown at people, it is drawn, that the powder is kind of living. It finds its way into any hole, and basically
like
transforms them.
like
Yeah, basically, yeah, and it transforms them into the tentacles sprout out of the necks or out of the chest, and they're not just tentacles; they open up with serrated teeth.
Oh yeah,
So
because that's
they're a nightmare, nightmare fuel.
Not
So these kind of like are zombies, but they've got big claws. They run really fast, and they've got a flipping massive tentacle coming out of your head.
Yeah.
So it's about as bad as it gets. Not great if you've got a shield, because they can get over the top of the shield, as you'll see in some artwork.
Shields
so there are
designed with this in mind. So yeah, that's fair.
No. So these are like the typical grunts you'll face, and there's Germanic versions as well coming, but they're armored, right? Because they're wearing Roman armor, so they're a bit harder to kill, and yeah, they can do a lot of damage, as people will know from the quick start.
Yeah, definitely.
As you found out, Steve.
Yes, I mean, it's safe to say that I am not the most tactical genius in the world, and I underestimated pretty much all of my opponents. It's really cool to see people in chat who said they have played the Kickstarter and tried it out, and they agree with me that it's bad to misunderestimate the
very bad time if you get near them.
I was going to say, von Carstein, everything's designed for the physical miniatures at 28mm scale, and the reason is because that is your classic historical miniature scale. So for people who've got some Germanic figures or Roman soldiers or historical terrain, that is the classic scale. Of course, if you're printing them at home, you can increase the scale to suit what you like.
That's very true. Next, we've mentioned them already, the Priests of Mormo. If you liked your tentacles, here's some more of them. What's going on with this lovely trio?
So the Priests of Mormo are human cult members of this cult of Mormo who've completely given themselves to Mormo, and they've transformed. So they've kind of grown these tentacle covered faces, and they've gained all this sort of eldritch power to be able to, for example, help create the servitors to summon other creatures. And the cult of Mormo is this sort of main faction that is effectively a bunch of leaders, like the cultists, the priests of Mormo, the overlords of Mormo, and they summon other creatures to do their bidding. So they're very much like a kind of mix and match, all sorts of different creatures that will appear on the table from different sort of eldritch forces.
Yeah. People have already noticed that the guy in particular we're looking at now, the painted version, is holding a Medusa head above his own. Presumably that can't cause any problems. That's safely been deactivated and doesn't.
Well, yeah. But he's probably using it as part of a spell. So the Mormo cult, their symbol is the Medusa head, which we'll see more of later on.
Cool. Obviously, priests aren't the only people that you need to run a Mormo cult. You will also need overlords.
Yeah, so the overlords are like your squad leaders, really. They are kind of small time leaders that will appear alongside probably a group of servitors to control them, and they're pretty vicious fighters in their own right. You often have some abilities.
Those pretty fancy looking curved blades. I'm assuming those are not to be messed with either.
Oh, that's right. No, yeah, they've got all sorts of different weapons, and they also have the occasional ability to give units another action nearby.
Okay,
so
that's not good.
They're bad
before they get out of hand, essentially.
Yeah.
After the Teufelshunde hands and after everything else.
Yeah.
There's no easy options really, is there? So that's not going to be great, but yeah. So these are the overlords, and with the overlords and the priests, if you want to get another look at them, and why wouldn't you? Then me and Callum will be painting these on our next painting stream, which will be the first Friday of June, which I believe, checks calendar, is the 7th
Yep.
So yeah, we'll be painting these. So if you want some tips on how to do tentacle-faced people or cloth, or just want to watch me goof it up, then because I'm not as good as Callum. But yeah, there we go. How big are the forces for this game? Are we sort of in line with Fallout Wasteland Warfare and Elder Scrolls Call to Arms?
Well, it scales. So the kind of game is in 3 chapters. The prologue that you've seen, kind of runs from a handful of characters up to, you've got like a couple of units of 3. And think of that as the first chapter. That's kind of the first chapter could just be 2 or 3 heroes. No, other soldiers. If you want, maybe there's like 3 of you and you want to have a hero each. And then that's going to build up to have like a sort of 2 or 3 units, maybe 3 or 4 soldiers each. The middle chapter of the game is where you start to get slightly bigger units. Maybe you've got a couple of units of 6 soldiers, maybe 8 soldiers. And then the final chapter is where it could be multiple units of 8 to 10 soldiers, multiple heroes, and now you've got quite a big force to play with. So it scales really well in how the difficulty builds up. And of course, we're going to start to see the really big creatures appearing over time. So you're going to need the ability to take stuff on.
And like we sort of alluded to earlier, you might want to mix your crew up, have different people in charge. That sort of like gives you that scaling as well as you start to learn more about the kind of things you're going up against. You might want to play it in a certain way.
And you can. The other interesting thing is, you like me and Steve and Jamie could each have our own game going along, and then we can bring our forces together. And of course, that makes the game bigger. That will trigger the scaling of the game. But we might have a hero or 2 heroes each, and we can bring them all together and play one big game together. So
don't invite someone to your game if they're not going to carry their weight. Basically, we want to make sure people are going to do their part. Next in the monster divisions. Now you did mention the slightly bigger monsters. We're starting to go bigger here. These are the Chosen of Mormo. It's worth pointing out that yes, as Mokko just says, the big boys are here. Yes, these are larger, shall we say? I
want you to imagine someone who's been enrolled in the cult of Mormo, and they're taken into the dream world, the dreamlands, to see the black sun itself, which is where Sothoth is trapped, and the experience has such a horrific effect on it. Kind of turns their body inside out, pumps them up into this sort of monstrous version of themselves. So they're a constantly screaming monstrosity, like stomping through the forest on bone and sinew and muscles. And not only horrific to look at, but very powerful. And you're gonna need some good monster hunters or some tooled up legionaries.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it doesn't look like they've been particularly lucky. I can't.
No.
Chosen is clearly a word they would not choose themselves. But yeah, that's fair. But no, these fellas are pretty tough, pretty tough indeed.
You're in for a bad time with them.
I know. So we've got 2 more sets to show you. The first of which is one of my personal favorites in these sets, but also just like of gribbly Cthulhu mythos type creatures. It's the Migo, and I personally think these are great because normally. I love the Migo, but they're always kind of like a little bit too spindly for me. Like a bit like like I always saw them as like these kind of like grub-like things, and these are kind of like have got more of a bloated horribleness to them. So these are fantastic.
Yeah, I mean they're a bit of a teaser for, of course, there will eventually be a full Migo faction, but we wanted, and again, just as I mentioned, the cult of Mormo draws in, it summons creatures to do its bidding. So it's taken control of some Migo drones to bring them into the battlefield to serve their will, and they are powerful. They like to work in groups, and as if they get closer to each other, they're going to make bigger units that are even more powerful. And of course, they fly. So that classic Roman shield wall is not much use. If they're flying around. So.
Yeah, exactly. But no, these guys and so these are the Chosen last time and the Migo, they're on the bigger bases. They're
the Chosen are on 40mm scale bases, and Migo are on. Let me check my sheet that I can't show anyone. Are also on 40mm bases.
There you go. I thought they were the same size, but I didn't want to.
They just the Migo are much thicker, so they'll keep them bigger.
Yeah.
And Attack says, well, if the shield wall fails, then I'm done for. That won't get you far in the secret war. You've got to have more of a can-do attitude than that. You need a soldier next to for scale. Is that what you're saying, Urquell? Well, in that case, the next one may have you covered. So this is the last set we have to show. So yeah, I guess we'll just let him introduce himself. This is the Star Spawn of Cthulhu. He's quite large. And there's a Marius for scale there because we anticipated what you might say. But yeah. So I guess it's I guess it might be worth asking, how does the Star Spawn of Cthulhu turn up in my game so I can avoid that? Because this feels like a bad idea.
So he's what we call an avatar. I mean, actually, this particular Star Spawn, he looks at you'll see he's a bit worse for wear because he's been underwater for a long time, and he's rotting from the inside out, which is why he's kind of emaciated. There's like kind of things crawling out of his body. There's wounds all over him. So he's a pretty grim appearance on the battlefield. And the avatars are what happens when your hero finally gets the attention of the outer gods. And so they turn their inscrutable will in your direction and just go, oh yeah, I'll just send a fragment of my mind off to deal with them. And hopefully by the time they turn up, you'll be powerful enough to deal with that version. But they're going to come back again and again and just getting more and more powerful over time. And of course, you might face there's other avatars that you could face. So it's basically what happens is when you kind of build up your character, there's a point where you've got so powerful, it triggers the opportunity for one of the outer gods to go, screw you, you're going.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a lot of fun.
No.
And they're going to be great fun to fight on the battlefield. Like they're
going to be really unique, really interesting.
Exactly. So we just showed the little video clip of one of them. But Jamie, do you happen to have anything you can show us a bit close up?
I do. So I can show off the camera if it stays in focus. Hey,
focus. You've got to put your hand behind it like a beauty tuber. Come on. You know how this works.
I can use the remote my webcam has.
Oh, all right. Or you could actually, do a real job. But there he is. This is how big he is, and
yes,
I love the wings on that, and the kind of the weird piping sort of tentacles like coming out of his back are very cool.
Yeah, that idea of the hand just dragging along the ground. As he's reaching for you.
Yeah, he's having a great time. But
yeah, he's gorgeous.
Yeah. So that is the Star Spawn of Cthulhu, and that is basically all we have to show you today for minis. I think we should probably very promptly say that if you have not signed up to be notified for the Kickstarter, do so. I will put a little link to it now. And so go and sign up. You'll be notified when it goes live. It is going live. We can say, can't we? Of course we want to say. It is going live next Tuesday, or when you watch this, I don't know when you watch this. You may watch it in the future, but it is going live on Tuesday, the 28th of May, 2024. And come and check it out. There'll be all of these minis. There might be some more. There might be other things. I mean, there definitely will be other things, but it's gonna be awesome. So come and join us, and we're really looking forward to like your feedback and stuff. I think this is a good point to say, if there are any last questions from people in chat, please do bang them in chat. Thank you for the sub, Merkel. Appreciate that. Very cool. So one of the other questions I heard was, I read in chat was simply novel, ? Because you mentioned like a novel, Chris. Do you want to touch on that at all?
Well, yeah, a whole novel that's part of the RPG Kickstarter, which is focused around the characters around Lorium. So that's the kind of RPG sets 3 onwards. If you look at the CohorsCthulhu.com page, there's actually some short stories as posted as blogs based around Marius and Lucius when they first meet the creature, the four-eyed lion, and some other short stories about them, and they're going to get some more storyline that's coming as well.
Cool. Yep. So if you're into the lore and stuff and the stories of that, that's definitely something to check out. Were there any other questions? I saw my scroll is just being a bit of a pain. But I think you kind of picked up on the ones I saw coming up as they came in, Jamie.
Yeah, I think we got all of them. I think
in that case, what I'll say is Chris first, and then Jamie. Do you guys have anything you want to add to before we finish off?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure that we'll all think of something as we press stop. I'd say, like, if you've ever fancied joining the ranks of the Romans or the Germanic heroes, if you want to be a monster hunter in Roman times, then I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with this game. Yeah. It's procedurally generating the story you want to tell for your hero. You're very much in control, but you're going to be up against all sorts of sort of fun challenging storylines, and you'll be able to pick where the story goes as well. So obviously wait until you see more next week, and
Definitely.
have fun.
Definitely. Jamie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, just say it's really excited to show everything off to everyone. The 3D team have done a phenomenal job coming up with some really cool monsters, really cool sets that I'm really excited to let everyone see. Even if you're not interested in the game, the models are very cool. Teufelshunde coming up with portals, pretty cool.
Exactly.
It's my favourite one. But yeah, excited for everyone.
Great.
Yes, we will
great
be
GE.
UKGE.
Yes, you'll be able to see these at UKGE. They'll be there. Will you be able to play the demo?
I will be.
Yeah, I'm going to be running. Well, me, Jamie.
The two of us will be demoing it over UKGE, depending who's distracted by what.
Exactly. There you go. That is the Kickstarter. Please go there. Please sign up for notifications, and we look forward to chatting with you more about Cohors Cthulhu Tactics. Thanks for coming. And how do I internet? I can't help you. You're on your own. The future is not the place for you.
Back the Kickstarter and find out.
So thanks for coming along, everyone, and we'll see you soon for the Kickstarter. If you want to chat to other people about this stuff, or indeed these two fine gentlemen below me who sometimes hang out there, head to our Discord, which is a great place to ask more questions. Or if you prefer to kick it old school, you can head to forums.mdifius.com. But otherwise, all that stuff is there for you to find. Please do come and chat to us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.